that's true. Okay, then let's just start. I'll start recording. No.
Welcome to episode 5, everyone.
I'm fine, definitely. And you?
Mo is in a rush today, everyone. Ball height is this height. Doing 2 in one hand is also the same height. Continuous high bounces. Man, this is really good. Nice, Mo. Nice, Mo. And it's so good your arms aren't high up, like I said in the...
No, it's like this.
Keep pumping, keep pumping. Oh, Mo!
Will we start with adding balls or with clubs?
Motherfucker!
I have to throw it away. Yes, sir.
No, you haven't! Okay, shall we go on to this week's homework?
Yeah.
Right, so what's going on now? Oh yeah, hui! Today's episode is about Moritz and Rosner and how he went from this to this in under 3 months. So me and Mo, we have just finished a 2-year juggling project which started in October 2022, and it started with Mo sending me a message asking where do I get my head mounts balls from and if I have any tips. So it was around this time when I was thinking about a juggling theory, which it isn't necessarily new, but it was new to me at the time, and it's still new to me now, to be honest. And basically the theory is that I believe there's a list of fundamental moves or tricks, or even maybe techniques, which I think are paramount for minimising the amount of plateaus you will hit when trying to improve at something. And I think this can be done throughout juggling. So if you're trying to learn to 360 in juggle, or you're trying to learn to head bounce in juggle, which is what this episode's about. And I think the easier the task is, the easier it is to write down these fundamental moves which are paramount. So, head bouncing and juggling. What do you need to be able to do? You need to be able to juggle. You need to be able to bounce a ball on your head. And you need to be able to bounce a ball on your head while you're juggling. That is a technique. So, out of those 3, which one do you think is the hardest? It is by far the juggling. Head bouncing is fairly easy. Combining the 2 is also fairly easy. So, on the screen right now, these are the 8 fundamental moves / tricks Mo and I use for us training. And I will also write on the screen what I believe these 8 fundamental moves would teach someone when learning to head bounce. I won't go through them all now, like this, if you know what I mean, but you're welcome to pause the video and have a bit of a read, obviously. But I really quickly want to discuss why I think head bouncing is easy and juggling isn't easy. So, when I was a kid, this is how I used to punch. Ooh. But now, as I've gotten older, my body has subconsciously learnt a more effective and more efficient way to punch. Would swing into it. I'm sure that's bad technique, but it's better than like that, isn't it? Therefore, I think to learn to head bounce, I think it's a very easy subconscious skill for the body to learn the most effective and efficient way to be able to do it. Whereas with juggling, I think it's a very different game. I think it's not easy for the body to learn to juggle. For example, if I'm trying to learn to stand on one leg, and I fall to my left, okay? So I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to lean more to my right. But with a juggling mistake, there's so many different things that could go wrong with it. And when you're learning juggling, and you've got no one else watching you, you don't know what's going on, so you don't know where to look to fix the issue that's happening, if that makes sense. So learning to juggle is actually a very hard task. It's easy if you have someone watching you and giving you tips, as they know where the mistakes are coming from. Learning to head bounce, and just learn to head bounce, it's a lot easier than juggling, trust me, and it's vastly easier than you might think. This video isn't going to teach you to head bounce, but me and Mo, we have filmed 9 coaching sessions from the very start, from Mo's very first attempt of the head bounce of 3 bounces to an insane head bounce beast, which we'll get onto that later on in the video. I have edited these 9 coaching sessions, and they're between 20 minutes to 30 minutes each, And I'll be honest with you, I'm a wee bit ashamed. I feel like I could have spent longer on each video. So I'm sorry about that. But nonetheless, all the information is still there. I've not taken anything out. And probably the best thing about these coaching sessions is that, as you can see on the screen right now, you can see at what point Mo started adding these each individual fundamental tricks and moves into his practice structure. But also within these 9 coaching sessions, Mo asks numerous questions, and I try and answer them to the best of my ability. And we go into other details on why I think it's a bad idea to learn 3 balls in the head bounce, why I think it's very important to only focus on balls in the head bounce and only start picking up clubs way later on down the line. And we cover all sorts of little weird stuff like this. So yeah, all of them are online now, so feel free to give them a watch. And again, I'm sorry about the editing. The reason why I've not put a timescale at the bottom of this graph is because I don't want to dishearten anyone. Because let's be realistic, you're probably not going to improve anywhere near as fast as Mo. And this isn't me telling you that you're not as talented as Mo, not at all. Mo could do this before he could head bounce. These tricks are insane. You could very easily say that Mo is the best in the world at juggling while balancing a club on his head. Now, what I'm about to say now might surprise you, and it really surprised me when Mo told me this, and it's good news for you guys. So even though Mo could do these insane tricks, if you took away the juggling, his head balance level was a hell of a lot lower than I thought it would have been. Mo told me that he struggles with doing the pen or the pencil balance on the nose. Therefore, one of the fundamental things to learn to head bounce is balancing small things on your face. Therefore, if Mo couldn't do that at that time, I reckon you could learn at a similar rate than Mo did. I'm only going to say this once, but I want you to think that I've said it a million billion times. If you want to learn to head bounce and juggle, you have to learn to head balance and juggle. The skills, the fundamental skills your body will learn from head balance and juggling will basically be dragged and dropped on top of your head bouncing and juggling. Let's say there's 10 things for your body to learn to head bounce and juggle. 8 of those things have already been learned from head balancing and juggling. Therefore your brain only now has to learn the top 2. And you will not believe at the extent that you will learn the head bounce and juggle if you learn the head balance and juggle first. Believe it or not, this is basically the same as breaking down a trick, learning each individual component of that trick, combining the lot, so you can do that trick more effective and more efficiently. Now I do want to say, depending on your juggling level and the trick itself, breaking down a trick isn't always as necessary as other tricks, but with head bouncing, I think it's excruciatingly paramount to be able to head balance first before you go into head bouncing, if that makes sense. Mo isn't the only one that has learnt from these coaching sessions. I have learnt so much. If someone came up to me and said, I need to learn the head bounce and you can only give me 3 tips, Lewis, or you are going to die, Lewis. Those 3 tips would be, the first one, when trying to bounce and juggle, focus on the bounce, not the juggle. The second one would be, learn to balance small objects on your nose. And we actually go into why I think it's better on the nose than the forehead in the coaching sessions. And the last one would be, push yourself. Learning to head bounce is way more forgiving than juggling. And what I mean by that is, you can really push head bouncing without gaining bad habits. Whereas with juggling, like for example, if you're trying to learn a juggling pattern or a juggling trick, but your level isn't good enough, your body is going to try and find other ways to perform that task. And that could be changing your arm position, fudging the pattern, fudging the trick, changing the rhythm and all of that malarkey. Now, for example, B97531, a lot of people run that with balls in a very sync manner, boom, 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 because it's more effective and it's more efficient for the body to be able to do that trick, especially if you're not good enough to be able to do that trick as a if that makes sense. But with head bouncing, head bouncing and head balancing, especially with the small stuff, once your body posture is set in, it is very exceptionally difficult for you to learn a bad habit from learning the posture. You're not all of a sudden going to go and start head bouncing like this, are you? Therefore, you can really push head bouncing and head balancing. And I want to stress this with the head balancing. Mo said to me that he can get 20 seconds with the small stick. Should he now go to something smaller? I'm like, heaven forbid, boss. When you can do something for 3 seconds on your face, on your nose, lower it. You only need to be able to do 3 seconds. Because you will not learn a bad habit, you can push it. If you can do something for 3 seconds, lower it. Obviously, go back to something bigger, do some drills, walking around in a circle, going down and up and all that malarkey. But if you can do 3 seconds of something, it's time for you to try and learn the next stage. Okay? I mean that. You will not believe how much you can push head bouncing and head balancing compared to your juggling. About a month ago, I went to go visit Mo. We decided to do an interview about this project, as well as making a juggling head bounce video to show off what he has learnt within this project. So what we're going to look at now is the video project. 3, 2, 1. Hope you enjoy.
No way! No! No way! Got it, you silly old man.
Keep it going. Keep the motivation high. You only live on this planet once, you don't want to waste it.
5 minutes.
Well done, Batman. Very, very nice.
That was way too long, but nice.
It only took 1 minute and 44.
Eight club flash with a head bounce, along with all those other crazy ass tricks. Now let's look at an interview with Mo where we're talking about the project and the 8 club flash.
Okay.
Oh, let me
great.
just make I like it when I can see the screens.
Yes.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this. What is this, Mo?
I'm Wakalaki.
I am very, very ill, so forgive me for my voice. Okay, Mo, should we get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Out of all the drills that I've given you, what drill do you think helped most?
It obviously changed, like from when I started head bouncing to now. I always try to see where I am and then try to push like things that are a bit over this level. And therefore it changed. And at first, the most important like drills were like the just alternating the bounce height and like the low bounces, high bounces, then standing on one leg. I actually really dislike to do it, but it helped. It really helped. Then walking around, like controlled, obviously. Then like turning in circles. Also the throwing the ball to the wall and catching it to the head bounce. Those really helped in the beginning. And the one thing I also disliked the most, but helped the most as well, was balancing small stuff. And I think this is like really a key tip I would give others to who want to start practicing head bouncing, because this really helped me and still helps me. I'm still doing it, and that's how I start my practice in general before I do head bouncing. And as soon as I'm like used to small pencils or whatever, small stuff, the head bounce ball somehow feels so big, and it feels like I can't really bounce it wrong because it's so controlled, and it's easier to bounce a head bounce ball compared to the really small stuff.
Nice.
I've got one more thing to add
Please
to the things that helped me. So far I only spoke about the drills like outside of the juggling, and what I found really helping for the head bounce juggling in general was all the throwing into the head bouncing. Like in the start, obviously, just you gave me the one with the 2 juggling balls and the 1 head bounce ball, and then going into 2 balls in one hand with the head bounce, then with the 360, and then we kept up adding balls to this. So now I'm at 5 juggling balls and the head bounce ball, juggling the 6 bar fountain, then doing the 360, going into it. Those things helped me really much, and I would definitely, besides the fact that they're just cool tricks, they really helped with the head bounce juggling.
How, because I kind of told you to not try 3 balls in the head bounce.
Yes.
What do you have anything to say about that?
I'm super thankful for this advice. I'm super thankful for it, because I feel like I just from the start avoided the one mistake with head bounce that like to not be able to break the rhythm, like to be able to like have a separate juggling rhythm apart from the head bounce rhythm. And this, like it taught me the skill right from the beginning. And yeah, it was just a great approach, and I would definitely recommend it to everyone who's learning head bouncing. So this was great. And for some reason, it was just fun to be able to do 4 before 3. Yeah.
As we've just mentioned, the rhythm between the bounce and the juggle.
Yes.
Ivan had the question, do you have anything to say about linking and unlinking the rhythm between the juggle and the head bounce?
That's actually quite interesting because we just came up with the topic a few days ago when I wasn't sure by myself if it is okay to even link the juggling with the head bounce, because the number one rule for our whole coaching was to never link it.
Yes.
But then the more I practiced 360 with the head bounce and with juggling, and several other like tricks where it is, in my opinion, useful to link it, the more I got into these, the more I thought about if it might be also good to just be able to link and unlink it. And in my opinion, it's the best if you are just able to have it completely unlinked, but then to be able to link it and unlink it consciously. Because like, for example, for pirouettes with head bounce and juggling, it's just good if you have the control, so you can throw the last ball of the, for example, 3-up, like rhythm aligned with the last head bounce.
Before the 360.
Yeah, and also this helped my head bounce in general, because just thinking about rhythms of like wanting to break the rhythm and wanting to align the rhythms, I think it also has helped me. And for some patterns, I am not sure if it's good or not to link it. For example, for 7-5 with 6 clubs, I have way better runs if I link it. Maybe you can give your opinion about that.
So, I think if you're trying to learn to juggle,
To head bounce there.
I'm struggling to talk. Linking it, I don't think. So you said that it's good to be able to try and link it and not link it. I think that is correct, but only try and link it if you're going to do a trick.
Yes.
If you're not going to do a 3-up with 5, don't try and link it and then unlink it when you're just doing 5-ball cascade. I feel like that's overboard. But I think it's the same with probably pull downs too. Not that we juggle rins, do we?
Yeah. No.
But when doing pull downs with the head bounce, I think you subconsciously do start pulling it down after you've linked it in your head. And I don't know what you would say, but for me, I think it's a lot easier to link it after you're good at head bouncing.
Yes.
I don't think it's anywhere as complex as you think. You think, oh, my timing's off, I've got to throw a ball a bit higher. None of that. Your body can just fix it. A bit like dwell time. And it is very subconscious, and it's nowhere near as hard as you think. Yes. Would you agree with that?
As soon as you are able to have it all unlinked, it's quite easy to link it. And then you're obviously able to unlink it again because you can break the rhythm. I definitely go with it.
Talk to us about the 8-club flash with the head bounce.
Yes. It was a struggle. And for some time I just had my whole head bounce practice, especially with clubs, just focus on this trick. That's why I, for some time, also just didn't really push any other tricks. I just went to drill quads and high stuff, and with 6 clubs, the 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, 0-0 with the clubs, and some stuff like only drills for the 8. And it actually was so hard because I had to focus so much on the bounce, because like the bounce was in general the hardest part for me, and at that time the 9-7 8-club flash was quite easy, but it had to come down perfectly because I had to just focus so much on the bounce that I couldn't do any corrections. Like even if it was like a wrong end that I could have got easy without the bounce, I couldn't catch it just because I was focusing so much on the bounce. That's why I sent you so many videos with like tries, and we can show them in here, where I just caught like I just missed like the last catch, and I had so many sessions like that, which was quite frustrating. Then you told me to do the small balancing stuff again, and I feel like I was pretty much 99% before getting the trick. And this was like the last 1% that was missing. Because on the day I got it, I actually went to the gym, and also I went there only to do the flash. So I just warmed up with head bounce, went straight to head bounce with clubs, and especially did the small pencil balances, which helped a lot just for having the bounce really safe and solid. Yeah. And then I actually just got it in within 4 minutes, I think. So yeah, that definitely helped practice the small pencil balances. Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah.
Was there anything through the training that you disagreed with, or that I wasn't very good at? You can be honest.
Question. I think I didn't disagree with anything at any point. I think what drained my motivation a bit was the switch from going to like the coaching style that we had right at the start, where I just sent you the videos ahead and you gave me instant feedback, to I will just collect the videos and show it to you, or upload to YouTube unlisted, and you will watch it all in like every 2 weeks or every week, because I don't have the instant feedback anymore, which also helped me tremendously.
Cool. Okay, so in the future, that is something, if you want to teach juggling, instant feedback's good.
That's super helpful, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, it also takes so much time to just reply to the videos instead of like replying to one big video. I definitely get it, but just for the whole progress and motivation, it's really, really useful to have the instant feedback, yeah.
That's great. If I remember correctly, one of the other reasons was so you could see my reaction.
Yeah, true.
But
that was a cool point about it.
Yeah.
You're right, yeah.
But yeah, okay, cool. That's an interesting tip for juggling coaches.
Yes.
Yeah, nice, interesting. These are some other questions from Ivan. Have you tried testing other types of balls?
Not at all. You could have given me a basketball and I would have just trusted you and pushed with the basketball. No, I ordered the balls you sent me, and one just directly flew into a cactus. So I only had one anymore, but yeah, that's still the one.
Nice.
And actually, I think that's a pretty good one. Maybe we can link it under the video.
Definitely, yeah.
Because as I said, like all the going from head bouncing into the juggling and back to head bouncing in all variations is super useful for the head bounce skill. And with the size of a ball, it's quite it's the best mix from being able to juggle the ball, because it's quite small and still that is not too small for the head bounce. So the size is quite nice. Yeah.
If you wanted to be the best, if you wanted to be the best head bouncer in the world, how would you go about it? Would you go about it becoming a better juggler or becoming a better head bouncer?
Definitely a better head bouncer, because as soon as I'm head bouncing, the thing that holds me back from making harder stuff is actually just the bounce and the lack of control over the bounce. And yeah, I would definitely change it.
I would definitely say, after seeing him in person head bouncing, as well as the progression you've been sending me over the videos, I think you're not anywhere near as good as you could be with the head bounce.
Yeah.
I think you could be quite a lot better. Well,
yeah, I think so too.
Quite a lot better in terms of it might not be visual for someone. I feel like there's still a lot of control to gain.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that you might not push it to get to that level.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think so too, just because I have other visions of me juggling in the future. I mostly want to really push in the numbers direction and push up with the 8, 9, and 10 club level. And actually doing that much head bouncing kind of held back my normal juggling a lot. And just because the focus wasn't there and the energy was spent on the head bouncing rather than other normal club juggling stuff. Of course, it definitely helped for some parts, like the balance juggling, but for the normal juggling, it would help if I do less head bouncing, yeah. And because my main goal is not to be the world best head bounce juggler, that's why I won't really push it further. Like with balls, yes, but probably not with clubs.
Where does Moritz rank his juggling feat with a head bounce compared to your other accomplishments? So obviously the 8 clubs and the bounce is a world record.
Yes.
We both believe Gatto's done it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty certain.
Definitely.
Even if he hasn't, we're almost saying that he very quite easily could have done.
Yes.
It's a world record.
Mm-hmm.
But is it one of your greatest accomplishments?
Definitely, for sure. I actually don't know if there's a bigger one, to be honest. I'm not sure how I would compare it to the 18 catches of 8 clubs. That's probably like the one that comes closest.
Would you, and the amazing thing about this, when I think about it, I don't know if you agree with me, but I don't even believe you're close to your limit of head bouncing.
Yeah, me neither. Definitely. Also, thinking about the time, like it's not much time. Like it has been 2 years, I think.
Yeah, and that's
maybe even
that's
less.
in and out of head bouncing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And just starting from scratch. I mean, I remember getting the ball, and my first head bounce attempt in my room. You even saw it. I think it was 3 bounces. Like,
Bank it 100. Nice. That was 3. That was nice. I reckon 9 clubs and the bounce comes down to your juggling level.
Yes.
More than your bounce level.
Yes.
Whereas 5 club tricks with a head bounce or 4 club tricks with it, maybe 5, it's coming down to your head bouncing.
Totally.
Rather than your juggling.
Totally agree.
So that's interesting to have 2 different sides of what you have to improve at.
Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yes.
And I believe that's all my questions and Ivan's questions. Is there anything you would like to say?
A huge thank you for doing this project and many more projects and all projects. And actually, like, I didn't tell you, but the vision of me doing way more numbers now was inspired by your latest project with the panel discussion with Eric and Tom and the other guys about numbers.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
So you're doing so much and you're inspiring so many people, so many jugglers with all the projects. And I hope this project will also inspire other jugglers. I actually heard a lot of jugglers who really want to learn head bounce, and I always tell them, no, don't start now. There will be a great project coming, which you can learn and see how you can learn head bounce the best way, like you taught me. And yeah, I'm just happy I could be part of the project. And
very happy to have you.
Thank you.
And the best thing about you is that I think the main reason why you improved so fast was mainly 2 things. Your balancing level was exceptionally high, and your work ethic is insane. And probably thirdly, you really listen to me.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I think it did help.
Definitely.
But I wouldn't ask me to give you any tips for any juggling. I would ask the man for that. So, yeah, no, thanks, man.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice.
Are we finished?
Yeah. Now we can go to the lake.
Yeah, let's go in. I'll give you a spin. See you later, doctor. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, Mo, we did really kick ass there, boss. Man. We really, really did. I think we got some great stuff. Moritz Rosner, thank you so much for participating in this. It really does mean a lot. You're a fantastic person, a fantastic juggler, great listener, I really appreciate that. As for the coaching sessions, they are now all online on my YouTube channel. I can't wait to speak to Ivan and other jugglers and you about trying to find other fundamental moves and tricks and techniques for other aspects within juggling. Because I really think with head bouncing, I really think these fundamental moves and tricks, they helped. Even if they didn't help in as much way as I thought, they gave us a path and a direction. And I'll be very interested in doing this project, doing a similar project like this on another aspect of juggling. Maybe even with 2 or 3 people, where we write down some fundamental moves and tricks that we think will help, and each person, we would slice these fundamental moves in at different points within their progression to see who learns the fastest. Obviously it's never going to be perfect because no one's exactly the same and all that mark. You'll never get the perfect experiment, especially when it comes down to some stuff like this. But yeah, maybe this is something that we can work on in the future. Very, very, very excited about that. So yeah, we hope you have enjoyed the project and the video, and we will see you in the next one. See you soon. Bye bye. I'm going to do my fist pump leaving scenario and my boom. 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Oh mein Gott. Fuck. 5 Minuten. 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lewis. Your work.
Yep, ready when you're a boss.
Hello everyone to the panel discussion of episode 2, where we now just have watched the video of Moritz Rosner and his journey from knowing nothing about head bouncing until actually doing an 8 club flash with a head bounce. Congratulations, Moritz.
Thank you.
How did it feel to actually get that trick?
I was so relieved actually, because in the end it took quite some time to get it, and I was close for so long, and I had so many sessions where I dropped like the last one or the last 2. So yeah, I was super happy about it.
When you say for so long, how long did you specifically try to do the 8 club flash with the head bounce?
And actually was on and off for 1 year because I'm performing quite a lot. But like really focused, it was probably like the last 1 month.
Wow. Okay, so 1 month of super hard, but you've tried it for around a year's time.
Yes.
Wow.
I was not ready like the year before I got it, but it could have been a lucky try. So
yeah, I understand. And as you guys can see, we're here with some other jugglers as well. We have Christian Hauschild, we have Lauri Koskinen, and we also have Jack Danger. Welcome.
Good to see you, Lewis.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We're just going to start off with some quick questions. And that is, I would like to ask every one of you, why did you learn to head bounce? Who is your favorite head bouncer? And when and at what level did you learn to head bounce? Or what level were you juggling at when you learned to head bounce? I think I would like to ask Lauri Koskinen first. Why did you learn to head bounce?
Why not? I mean, there were some other jugglers doing it back in the days when I started, like some Finnish jugglers, Sakari Männistö and a few others, Mika Nuutinen, many people. And obviously I was a huge Anthony Ghetto fan. So he's my all-time favorite head bouncer. And also so many old school black and white videos. Like when I started, we had those VHS tapes, and so many of them did head bouncing. So it was like, yeah, obviously head bouncing. After a balance, yeah, then you learn head bouncing. And I guess the level I was at, I don't remember so well. It was over 20 years ago, but like I could do 5, stuff like that. After juggling, maybe, yeah, and probably clubs and rings as well.
Yeah.
But it was not like the first ones. It came, like I did a lot of balancing stuff before. And I knew head bouncing a little bit from playing football for many years before. So I'm guessing maybe 4 or 5 years after done juggling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so you for sure had some juggling experience before going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had like balance and 5. I could do that before head bouncing, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. What about you, Christian?
I didn't know of head bouncing before, like when I first started juggling in 2008. I think it took until 2012 or 13 until I saw the first videos. I didn't know who Anthony Gatto was until 2012, I think. So the first 4 years I didn't even know that was part of juggling, or that could be part of juggling. And then I remembered, because it's the first trick in his routine, like the stage routine he does.
Yeah.
And that's kind of overwhelming if you go into watching trying to watch a video, trying to see what can I do, what can't I do. And the first thing is like so out of your league. And then I learned to head bounce within a year, and I met Lewis actually. So
I remember
that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
In Berlin, I think, was the first time, and then Toulouse a couple of weeks after. And then seeing someone that wasn't Gatto do it, which you were the only other person I ever saw do it before up until that point. So actually my parents were noticing you as well. Were talking to me about, is this the guy that we were talking with all the time? So yeah, and then I tried to learn to just head bounce. But I would say it took maybe a year for me to get to a 5-ball qualify, but nothing was ever solid. So not even the 3-ball juggling with the head bounce was solid. And then I didn't really do it for 5 years. And I just started to pick it up maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and changed my approach. So that was sort of the story. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
That's cool, Lewis.
Yeah,
to
that's
hear
very
that.
cool. Yeah, I can't.
You're one of the first head bouncers.
My first juggling video
met.
on my channel, there's you in it.
Is it?
Doing the head bounce. Yes, there is.
First. After this call, I'm going to your YouTube channel. I'm going to check it out.
Me too.
You actually commented on it underneath the video 11 years ago. Your comment is still there. I double checked. So
okay. I'm going to double check it again.
Yeah, it's there.
Cool.
Amazing. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I started learning head bouncing about 4 years ago. So at that point, I had been juggling for 15 years, and I could do 7 clubs or 9 balls or whatever. So that it was a completely new thing for me. I hadn't learned to bounce a ball in my head before, and I think I was interested in learning it because it's just a completely new skill, and it has a nice sort of visual quality to it. Like it just looks very impressive. It's kind of flashy, and I really like flashy juggling tricks. And kind of like what Lowry said, it's like you see these sort of old black and white videos of all of these great jugglers of history, and they can kind of all do the head bounce. So Lewis, I really liked your idea in the documentary that there's sort of maybe a core set of juggling tricks, that stand the test of time. And I totally agree that this is one of them. All of the great jugglers can do it. So Anthony Gatto would be my favorite for sure. I mean, he could basically do everything with the head bounce. And after I picked it up, about 4 years ago, it's probably within a year I could do 7 balls with it for 50 catches. So
wow.
I was learning all the balancing alongside that, so we could talk about that too.
Yes, we're for sure going to go a lot into balancing and head bounce and how that compares in a lot of ways. Moritz, you can do it short and quick because, of course, we've heard quite a bit just after watching this documentary. But please go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I think it was 2022, somewhere there. And
I actually don't know the exact reason why I wanted to start. Maybe it was also just to get another skill. But I just messaged Lewis if he can recommend a head bounce ball. So that's how it started. And skill-wise, I look quite much up to Anthony Gatto and Pablo Sukovic. Creativity-wise, it was Lewis Kennedy, definitely.
I'm telling all of these guys to say good things about me. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that's it for my story.
Cool.
Good stuff. I'm wondering, how big part of your juggling would you say that now your head bouncing is? Is your head bounce a big part of your juggling, or is it just something that you have learned along the way? What do you think, Lauri?
It's something that I come back every once in a while. Like, I haven't done it in a show for like maybe 2-3 years. So it's not something I don't have a bouncing ball on my training bag at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Why did you stop bringing the head bounce ball?
No, it's not that I stopped. It's just that I had other stuff that I found more cooler.
Okay.
But it's something that, like the Portuguese pole, like I had a pole between the ball. And, well, that I've done for longer, but that I still do in my act. And I keep changing what I do in my shows and in my acts. And now I only do the head bouncing when I do like longer whole family shows.
Okay.
Like, it's not a part of my club routine, normal club routine anymore, or at least currently. But maybe again next month I will pick it up again.
Yeah. What about you, Jack and Christian? Is it something that's currently a big part of your juggling, or is it something that you just come back into here and there?
Jack, you want to go first?
Yeah. I perform it a little bit, like the 5 balls with the head bounce. I usually do that when I perform. As far as my practices go, I try not to spend too much time on it, like just running endurance and trying to run longer and longer. But usually I'll go for one good run with the 5 balls and the 6 and the 7. It's not something that I'm pushing like a lot with, but it feels like a good skill to have sort of solid in my back pocket. So I try not to do it too much, but I practice it every time I go to practice. Yeah. Christian?
Yeah, I'm pretty content with the level I'm at with it. So I did achieve what I set out to achieve, which was to get the 5 solid. And then I'm not juggling right now. Like, I don't juggle a lot right now, but if I were to pick, practice every day, I know exactly what I'm able to do. And there's definitely a pathway to, things I can still improve on. So I know that just by practicing every day for a couple of months, I would be able to get better at 6 with the head bounce, 7 with the head bounce, both balls and rings. And I feel like that would come pretty quickly. So there is still a lot more progress to be made. But as of right now, I don't have that much time to devote to juggling in general. But I feel like if, that window opens back up, I'd probably be able to make some more progress pretty rapidly. But the foundation is there. So yeah, I can pick up the 5 with the head bounce, pretty much no warm up. I feel like pretty good. Depending on the light, the lighting is something that like sometimes throws me off a little bit. If you're like underneath a bright light, but for the most, and I find it easier outside. But that's just probably because I tend to practice outside a lot more. So practicing inside is always really strange because you have the ceiling to contend with, and it just feels so. Even though there's a lot of ceiling height, still feels so cramped. I don't know.
For me, it's the completely opposite.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm outside, all the balance stuff when I'm outside, it feels extra difficult.
No, to me, I'm so used to juggling outside. So for me, being inside, I feel like I can't throw as high as I know, it should be possible physically. There's enough room, but my body just doesn't allow me to. It takes me 3 to 4 days to get used to practicing inside because I'm just so used to practicing outside. So even head bouncing, balancing, all that stuff feels super weird when I'm inside.
Wow.
I know for my part, like if I want to balance in the room, for example, in this room where the ceiling isn't really high, I find that way more difficult than if I have a high ceiling, for example. But for me, I'm an indoor juggler usually, almost always actually, and I enjoy that more. But yeah, let's start to dive down a little bit further into head bounce, and from the perspective of someone that has never done it, but maybe have a little bit experience with juggling. How difficult is it to head bounce? Let's start with just the ball. Like, is it as juggling 3 balls? 4 balls? Is it as balancing a club or balancing a ring? How difficult is it to head bounce? Any one of you could take the word.
Well, I can talk I can't talk so much my own experience, but what I've taught many people, it is way more difficult than balancing.
Okay.
It is way more difficult, I would say, than 3, 4 objects. 5 depends. But because I've seen some people learn really easily head bouncing, and I know some people who have struggled with it a long time, even after mastering a balance. Like club balance and juggling, they have handled and still find it difficult to bounce. So I would say in general, it's way more difficult than balancing.
Okay.
But this is just what I see. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the question is what level of control you're using with the ball bounce. Like, can you keep it perfectly still for, say, 100 bounces, or will you allow yourself to move around a little bit? Because if you're going to try to keep it perfectly still, then that's going to be a lot harder than balancing a club or a ball or whatever on your forehead. But if you're going to allow yourself to move around a little bit, that's kind of how I learned it. And it also depends on the type of ball that you use. So I learned initially with like a playground ball that I got from a department store, and that wasn't very good. Initially, I moved around a lot with that, but then I got something a little bit heavier, like a rhythmic gymnastics ball, and that gave me a lot more control, I'd say.
Yeah, interesting. What head bounce ball do you guys use?
I'll start. It's called a Sasaki M21C. It's a junior size rhythmic gymnastics ball.
Okay.
Yeah,
what about you, Moritz?
Oh, so sorry.
What about me, Lewis?
Yeah, me and Mo use the same one. Yeah, I'm surprised you mentioned, because I think probably Laurie uses quite a heavy ball too. I can't say it, the gymnastic balls, they're much heavier, aren't they?
Yeah, before I used also Sasaki balls, but they're not available in Finland anymore.
Okay.
So now I use Juggle, which is pretty much the same. It's the same size, same weight, same build. I think it's identical with different name, and it's much cheaper as well. But yeah, before I had smaller rhythmic gymnastics ball that was super heavy. But those Sasaki Juggle balls, they're much lighter. It's over 100 gram difference.
Wow.
So like, if you see some super old 20 years ago videos with the black ball I had, that was heavy. It was small, but it's super, super heavy. So that started to be bad on my neck. But those Sasaki Juggle balls, they're fantastic. They have weight to it, but not too much.
I've got a question. What do you all think about... because I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm thinking... When you use a ball like what me and Mo are using, which is quite light and it bounces and it goes a bit all over the place, I think if you use that ball, you will learn quicker than if using a heavier ball. What are your thoughts to that?
I think I personally only ever used the lighter ball. So I've used the Kipsta. I'm not sure. Kipsta?
Yeah.
Kipsta. I think that's the one actually, Lewis, you gifted to me.
You still use it?
At the EJC. Yeah, it's the same one. I'm still using that.
I can't believe you're still using it. I feel honoured.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like it's much smaller though than a lot of people use for head bouncing, but it's really nice for juggling. So it's a good compromise between, having something I can still pull into the pattern and then get back out into the head bounce. So to do the combination tricks, and it's super simple. I mean, it weighs almost nothing. It might weigh like a gram. Not a gram, literally. But,
Do you know how much it actually weighs?
I can weigh one right now for you.
Yeah. I can go get it. It would take 60 minutes.
Okay, how heavy do you guys think it is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say it's probably 100 and...
Yeah, 100 something, 150.
No, I would say 113.5.
I've got
Is it heavier than a Norwick?
That's what I thought. That was my... I was like...
113.5.
133.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit heavier. 133. And Lauri, do you know the weight of your previous, like the black ball you talked about?
The black ball was 340 or 350.
Almost 3 times, a little
Yeah,
bit less.
and I think the shacket is like 240 to something like this.
Wow.
Is
That
the
makes
one
quite the difference, I guess.
Yeah. But answering the question, which would be more easy?
The bigger.
I think it depends what you get used to. I mean, for me, having a super light ball, because I'm used to heavier ball, the controlling is so much more different.
Yeah.
And I also control how much air I put inside. Because if I have more air, it will bounce more easily, but I have to be more careful with my controlling. And if it has like less air inside, I can control more easily, but I have to put more, like body into the bouncing as well.
Yeah, I just remember I was actually using a Kipsta ball before as well, but a bigger one. And I feel like maybe learning to bounce might actually be easier with a bigger ball. It was still very light, just a lot, like significantly bigger, harder to put into the juggling pattern. And then I switched to the green one you gave me.
Wow. I suppose
it might be
a
good drill for the bigger ball though. Yeah.
I suppose it's a bit like balancing a club and then balancing something smaller. Exactly. It's a similar kind of whammy.
So I've already gotten the impression that all of you guys first learned how to balance, and you also knew how to juggle, and then after a while you learned to head bounce and head bounce to juggle. If, let's say, there's this soccer player, he perfectly knows how to head bounce, and for some reason he also knows how to juggle. Do you think that he for sure should learn to balance and then learn to juggle with the balance before he starts to learn how to bounce with while juggling? Or do you think, no, he knows how to bounce, he knows how to juggle, he could just go for it? Do you think you could learn it without knowing how to balance?
I mean, he could definitely learn it. You could somehow also learn 4 balls before 3 or 5 before 3, whatever. But I think it would help to know how to balance and juggle before learning to bounce and juggle, just to get used to like focusing on the balancing or bouncing job and like mostly, and then have the juggling besides of that. So I think it would definitely help to learn the balancing first. Yeah.
What about you, Jack?
I don't think that person would need to learn how to balance first, because the aim of the balancing is already kind of achieved if you can control the ball perfectly. Like the physical balance in your body is already there if you can control the ball. So I think like a better exercise for that person would be like learning how to juggle 3 balls and just facing their head straight up with maybe nothing there. It's like that was something that I kind of worked on when I was learning, was like juggling 5 balls and then trying to pay as little attention to it as possible. Like I would bend my neck or face my head straight up and just like look around the ceiling and try to focus on random points on the ceiling while juggling the 5 balls.
Wow, I've never thought of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but if you can already control the ball bouncing on your head perfectly, then that's already a harder version of the balance. So I don't think.
I'm wondering if you're able to bounce the ball. I feel like it's almost impossible not to know how to do a head stall with the ball, like how to balance the ball.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking pretty much everyone that knows how to bounce the ball for 1 minute or 2 minutes would have tried to balance the ball as well. Because that's like a typical thing you do. So I'm not sure there is a person that bounces and does not know how to balance. I'm wondering if that's
interesting. Like probably balancing a club would be difficult if they haven't tried it. But of course, just balancing the ball, it would probably be so much transfer value from the bouncing that it would be possible.
For me, it was, I learned head bouncing as a kid when I played football.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to balance. Never stole the ball on my head, because why would I? There were no freestyle football stuff back in the 90s.
Yeah.
At least what I know. But in this case, like you said, the example, if somebody has a rock solid head bouncing, should they learn the balance? Like, I think the balance is more easy, but if they can learn it without the balance, yeah, why bother? But if they're having difficult with the bouncing and the juggling, then learning first the balance, or like simultaneously also learning the balance, could help a lot, I think.
Okay, why would switching it up to trying to learn how to juggle with a balance benefit you more than just sticking with bouncing with bouncing while juggling? Why would that be a better exercise?
Because it's easier, in my opinion, because when you do a bouncing, you also have to move up and down a bit.
Yeah.
When you keep it the balance, you just stay there. So, like, especially having some super light stick, that you will learn the juggling while doing something else. And it's like what Jack said, if you do these pantomime exercises where you imagine that you have that stick, or you imagine that you have the ball, and then you learn the juggling and the rhythm and everything. So it depends on the individual. Like, if they can learn, you can see that, all right, they're making progress with the head bounce and the juggling. There's no need for the balance. But if you see that they're struggling to put them together, also learning that balance, that is mostly easier for people, I found that it's quite helpful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Lewis, could you mention some of the specific fundamental moves that you had in the video? And also, all of you other guys, if you could think about, are there any one of these fundamental moves that Lewis mentions that you kind of disagree with? Like, oh, no, I don't think this is necessary, or I also think this is necessary. So Lewis, you could start mentioning some different ones.
Yeah, I think the first one was drills. So, like, going up and down, sitting down, turning in a circle, all that markalocky without the juggling. Mo, you might have to help me here, Mo. And then it was the small balancing, which I'm interested to know what you all think. Do you think that is an important thing, me, Bobby? Because I do know Mo said that you think it's quite fundamental, Mo. Yeah.
Yes.
But I have a feeling that Christy and Jack, maybe even Laurie, maybe you haven't ever tried to balance small things on your nose.
Important to have a smaller balance, you mean?
Yeah. I think learning something smaller with a balance, I think it makes the head bounce vastly easier. Yeah.
Well, I disagree. I mean,
Okay.
I've never tried it, but I feel like if someone asked me now to teach them to juggle while head bouncing, what I found over the years to be the most important thing is something different, quite different actually.
Go for
it. Because what I used to think was, okay, so now you can bounce the ball. So you start with one ball, go on to 2, try to learn 3, get that solid, move on to 4, get that solid, move on to 5. But even though I was starting to work on 5, the 3 never, and I mean over weeks, we're talking about a period of several weeks, months, the 3 never really got to a point where it felt comfortable. So it never got solid. But the idea in my head was to get it solid and then move on to the next thing and sort of get the first prerequisite done and then move on to the next one, go step by step by step. And then I sort of put it to the side and didn't really practice it anymore post 2014 because I got frustrated. And the best run I ever got was like 40 catches maybe with 5 balls. And that was the best run I ever got. And then I tried it again. And then what I found to be the most effective thing, also with a lot of other tricks, not just with head bouncing, was to just give it 5 to 10 attempts a day, just the 5 balls with the head bounce.
Yeah.
Not really warming up with 3 or 4. And then just getting your body used to the feeling of bouncing and just starting to juggle, not waiting for the perfect moment to start, just giving it a go 10 times. It probably just takes 2 minutes, and then put it away and try it the next day. And do that for, a couple of weeks, like 7 days a week. Well, adding that up takes, it's like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in total. But that really was what got me to a point where I felt like, I can now easily do this without warming it up. Just getting your body used to the feeling, starting without any warm up. And I did that with 5 clubs with a balance too. That's when I got frustrated in 2015, not getting any better at it, and then just giving it 5 tries a day, and then moving on to the next thing. So just sort of getting the neurons in your brain used to the feel of the trick you're trying to do, and then forgetting about it. And then the next day, sort of rewiring everything, and then keeping that going. Without any other real prerequisites. So that's what ended up working for me. So that's what I would advise everybody else would be to not focus too much on the basics, like still try them, but not get stuck with the basics. Try to really push, but not for a long time, but push every day.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's so interesting. That's awesome.
But yeah, Moritz, because you actually went through learning to balance some really small objects while balancing. Did you feel like this, while juggling, of course, did you feel like that this was beneficial for you?
Yeah, actually for me, the head bounce itself always felt like way easier, actually, after balancing small objects. But maybe also because I still struggled a lot with the head bounce, with keeping it really in place and perfectly. And maybe you guys don't have that, and the head bounce is just good. So maybe that's why it helped for me. I don't know. But for me, it made a difference, definitely.
So I started balancing small objects after I watched the documentary a couple weeks ago to try it out myself. And I could already kind of balance like a pencil on my nose. I find that it's really helpful because you're sort of finely tuning your your reaction time and your perception, which I think is really important for the balance. And it is, or for the head bounce, and it is easier, in my opinion, after you balance something small, because just the amount of physical space that a pencil takes up, or a pen or whatever, versus the ball bouncing on your head, that's a lot bigger space when the ball that you're kind of trying to control. So I found it to be easier. And I also think when you're balancing or head bouncing, you're moving your body back and forth to make adjustments. And that all kind of comes from your spine and the sense of connection that your eyes have to the center of your body.
Yeah.
And so the more you can sort of finely tune that, I think is really, really helpful. And I mean, I'm sure there's an argument to be made for core strength, the strength in your abs, your abdominal muscles or something like that too, but I haven't really tested that. I found it to be helpful though, but I never worked on sitting down. Actually, no, I would do a deep squat, balance it. When I was learning to head bounce, I would balance a club or the ball, the head bouncing ball on my head. And I would do a really deep squat, or balance on one leg and do it. So different ways to make it a little more difficult, I guess. Yeah.
Moritz, or Lauri, you could say it first.
Sure. Yeah. For this, the question, is it necessary? To learn the smaller balance? No, we see with Chris, it's not necessary. But for many people, because what we're talking about when we make smaller and smaller, we're talking about improving technique. Making it smaller improvements and better technique, faster technique, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it will definitely help. Absolutely. But is it necessary? This is again, depends on the individual. But yeah, I think it absolutely helps.
Do you guys think that to become properly good at head bouncing, that you need to start doing it at a young age?
No.
Because often we can see that some, let's say Pavle Sukovic and Anthony Gatto, that the head bounce is it feels like it's a part of their body in a way, that it just works, it's just going. But you guys still think it's possible to come to that head bounce level, even though if you start late?
It depends on what level. Like if you're talking about Gato level, yeah, you have to start young. Like there's no time. But just to learn it, have it rock solid, you don't have to start it young. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you can probably. I think every reasonably good juggler can learn to do 5 with a head bounce, I would say. I mean, yeah. I was stuck for years, and then I just did 3 months of, every day just attempting it, 7 days a week, and that was what worked for me. So I feel like I could still go so much further if I just put in the time. I'm just not putting in the time.
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely helps to start young, also because for me, I always felt like I can't really brute force it so much to learn it, just because the muscles that are involved are so specific. And it's similar to balancing, but still there are some different muscles involved. At least that's what I think. So for me, it wasn't like I could practice head bounce for hours every day, because my neck was already hurting quite much like especially when Lewis was here and we filmed the video. Oh my god.
That was hardcore. 6 hours a day or something crazy, wasn't it?
Oh shit.
Wow. When you give me the thumbs up, Lewis, I'll start. Moritz, if I remember correctly, you said that you believe your 8 club flash with a head bounce is one of your most difficult juggling achievements that you've ever done.
Yes.
And how could that be the case when both you and Lewis think that you're not even near your potential head bouncing limit, even when you're quite near your juggling limit? Yeah. Like, how is it possible that the 8 clubs with a head bounce is the most difficult thing that you've done?
For me, mostly because I had to learn it from scratch in I don't know how long it was, 2 years, 2.5 years. That was the hardest factor for me, because still at the day of the 8 club flash, it wasn't like it was 100% comfortable to have the head bounce. It was still I really have to focus on it, and while doing the 8 clubs, I couldn't really pay attention that much to the pattern. That's why it was so hard for me. If I would put so much work into it that the head bounce will just get solid, completely solid, I think I could definitely reach better levels. But yeah.
Wow. It's so incredible hearing that you say, I head bounce and then I have to do an 8 club flash while not focusing on it. To do an 8 club flash without actually focusing on the flash itself, it just sounds insane. How solid has your 8 club flashes become?
Around this date, it was quite solid. I don't know. I think I also posted a practice video of 2 8 club practices, and there it was pretty good to see how solid. I could do a flash, then 10 catches, 12 catches, and some short runs back to back.
Wow.
It wouldn't have been possible for me to do it if the 8 clubs weren't that good.
Yeah, I understand. And compared to your 8 clubs with the club balance, because you're also the first in the world to do that.
Really?
I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I saw Jack practicing it on the IJA in 2022.
Oh, you have practiced it as well, Jack?
Yes.
I think I was just for fun. I never really practiced. I think that was I was just trying to get somebody else. It worked.
It worked? You have done it?
Well, no. I to try it.
I didn't quite hear that.
He inspired Mo to try it.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I talked with you, Moritz, prior to this when you and Lewis were making this episode, and we discussed a little bit about the difficulty of it. And then one trick that came up was Anthony Gatto's 7-ring 7-up 360. And then we discussed, okay, 5-up 360. Yeah. And then we discussed what's more difficult, to do that or 8 club with the head bounce. And at least for me, without the head bounce, the 7-ring 5-up 360 is way easier than the 8 club flash. But you said for you, of course, you're not a ring juggler, but for you, you kind of believe that maybe the 7-ring 5-up 360 with the head bounce is more difficult. Why do you think that?
Because I feel like with the 8 clubs, it is just a flash, and it's like a few seconds that I could potentially shift the focus off from the head bounce. And for the 7-ring 5-up 360, it's you have to maintain a good pattern. You have to do a 360 while doing a head bounce, and just get into the pattern afterwards again. And it's just longer, and it definitely needs more head bounce skill as well. That's why I think it's harder. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. On what? That
it is more difficult with 360, than doing a flash. Yeah.
Okay, so that the technicality of being a good head bounce juggler itself is way more difficult when you have the 360. But the
also,
trick,
you need to be a really good
itself.
ring juggler. I feel like really. Doing a 7-ring 5-up 360 so easily that you can still head bounce. I mean, it's not just the head bounce; it's also like
it's everything.
7 rings. I mean, wasn't he like 14 or 15 when he juggled it for 5 minutes on stage?
I don't know.
So, I think he was, and then he did it for 15 minutes when he was older, and he ended with a 5-up 360. So he can run a cascade for 15 minutes, and then do the trick. That's kind of because who else is doing that trick that easily? Nobody. So I feel like simply the cascade skill, like the foundational juggling skill with the rings, I think might be just as important as the head bounce. Because it needs to be so easy when you're I don't know of anybody else doing pirouette like Toby Walker is doing with the clubs, but with the rings, I don't. Pablo, I've seen maybe a little bit, but not to the same extent, I think. And got also 7-up as well.
Yeah, I like you're doing like a flash with the head bounce. Like, how does the ball bounce on your head in that like 2 or 3 second span? Like maybe it bounces off 4 or 5 times over the course of 3 seconds. Like you can kind of phone it in with the head bounce. If you really need to take your eyes and just look a little more at the 8 clubs. Well, not saying that's easy, but you can do last a couple of seconds. Like you have You have.
Yeah, I'll check now. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 bounce kind of after.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 bounces while doing the 8 club flash. It's not more.
Where do you?
But still, it's quite some. It was more than I thought.
It was less.
More than I thought.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Where do you guys look when head bouncing?
Oh, that's what I wanted to say, because I feel like personally, when you start learning, not even to bounce, but to balance, you're so focused on the object you're balancing. Whereas the better you get, I feel like it's easier to shift the focus slightly forward. That's what I'm noticing myself, Now I don't really have to focus so much on the club. I feel like I can shift not just my peripheral vision, but at the actual vision more onto the juggling pattern and focus a lot more on that. And the balance is starting to become, or has started to become, through all these years, more automatic. I'm not good enough at head bouncing to really say if that's going to happen too, but I can sort of imagine that that's something that might happen if you keep going, a couple more years. And
totally.
Once you achieve that level of mastery, then it shifts back.
Does anyone have that here? Like that they can kind of fully focus on the juggling while head bouncing? Because for balancing, I think all of us can do that. But for head bouncing?
Well, yeah. But I don't want to say I'm good at head bouncing. But I know when I was thinking, how did I say this and not sound cocky? But it's just because I think it's just because you guys are
No, but I
jugglers.
mean, you do not need to justify.
No.
Yourself.
But I don't
It's
think
our fault for not practicing.
Yeah. It's the fact that I never went into my practice. I always wanted to get good at juggling, but all my tricks was head bouncing related. So I probably spent half of my session head bouncing. So yeah, so that's a different. It's like a different sport in a way. It's like, yeah, if you know what I mean. But I do know when I'm going to do like a 7-4-4, I'm looking and thinking about the sevens, but if that makes sense. But I do know when it starts falling to bits, I have to start focusing on the bounce again. If I don't, I can't correct it as fast. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
When things start going wrong, focus on the bounce, because I think it's quite easy to do 7-4-4 with like reaches, but as soon as you do this, everything, like what Jack was saying, your whole posture changes, and then so you fix this first, and then you focus on the fix, and then the juggling is like a subconscious fix, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys, what do you guys say to that?
I feel like that's pretty much what I was trying to say. That just wanted to hear it from somebody that is actually capable.
You're capable.
What about you,
of doing that? Yeah.
I was going to say the height of the juggling pattern definitely influences where I look to. Like when you're juggling the 5 balls with the head bounce, like the tops of the ball bouncing on your head and then the cascade. So it feels more like one thing, kind of. I don't know if I'm describing that right, but you can focus more just on the ball bouncing, and the 5 balls is pretty automatic. But if you're doing 7 balls or like 7 rings, then the height of the 7 ring cascade, the 7 balls, whatever, is that much higher than the ball bouncing, which is just down here. So then instead of just looking up at the ball bouncing, your eyes kind of shift over, and it's kind of in that space in between the head bounce and the pattern. And it's like when like non-jugglers ask you, oh, what ball are you looking at when you're juggling? Are you looking at all the ball, all of them individually, kind of just gazing at the whole thing?
Yeah.
But it pattern higher ball bouncing.
Yeah.
So if I have understood you guys correctly, if you have a juggling pattern and you add a head bouncing ball to it, it becomes a little bit more difficult if you do a simple move, not a easy one, but let's say a 9-ring flash. It's not easy, but it's simple. Everything is the same. But if you add a head bouncing ball to a complex move, like back crosses and a 360 and stuff like this, then the head bounce itself will make the move way more difficult. Do you agree with this statement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lauri.
There is we have to consider that for some people, complex is not complex. And for others, because we have different strengths in different techniques. But yeah, in general, yes. When it's more complicated for you, it becomes way more complicated with the balance as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now we're going to start to... this is the beginning of the end of the podcast. And
if I can quickly say to the previous, where to look when bouncing.
That's an interesting,
I'm looking at the ball. Like with the balance, I always look at the balance. But it also depends on where I keep sort of my other focus. Like if I do higher pattern, I do need to look as high as possible. And also like with the ball, if I look dead center to the ball from the bottom, or do I look in the front? Like if my vision here, or is it like more to the front? Depends on what I do. But I'm not actually sure, like normally where I look at the ball. Do I look like the bottom point, or do I look at the front point? I don't know until I try it again. I haven't bounced the ball in my head in almost a year, so I don't know now.
Laurie, I'm sure I've seen you do 7-4 with a balance with clubs. I'm sure there's.
To what?
I'm sure you've done. I'm sure I've seen a video of you do 7-4 with clubs with the balance. I'm sure I've seen that.
Yeah.
Not that I can do it, but I would. If I thought I could do it, I would definitely focus on that triple on the 7, like full focus on that triple. Do you?
Keep a focus on there. Make sure that your technique is good. Make sure you're throwing, but I still look at the club, the balance.
Okay. Yeah.
That is where I keep my eyes on, because I need to look at this and focus on the juggling. Like, I keep the balance, it's automatic. But I still need to look at it. If I look away, I have like less than a second to look back again.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, so it's you are kind of bringing up the differences between looking at something and focusing on something. Because what I hear now is that you say you look at the balance, but you focus on the high throw of your juggling pattern.
Or like all the throws, like doing 7-4-4 with 5 clubs.
Okay.
Like, you need to focus that the 3 is, the 7 is triple. You need to focus that they're going in the right place. But I still look at the balance.
So focus on the juggling, but look at the balance or the head balance.
Like, that's how I feel with the balance and with the bouncing and everything. First, you need to learn it, and then it has to be sort of like an automatic motion that it just happens in the background.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to focus on the juggling more, because at least for me, that's way more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Me as a head bouncer, I have tried it very briefly. And when I tried to learn it, I ended up always throwing at the same time as I was bouncing the ball. I was aware that I was doing this. I knew that this would not be beneficial if I were to do 4, but I wasn't able to fix it. That's an example of a kind of bad habit within head bouncing. What other bad habits does exist in head bouncing that you should be aware of and try to fix?
I wouldn't call that a bad habit because I do it too. But I do it differently. Like with 3, I bounce to the rhythm. With 4, I have a different rhythm. With 5, I have a different rhythm. So I have to change it according to what I do, because my 3 is different tempo than my 5. I don't do 3 super low if I try to do like the same. I don't do the same tempo as I do 5. So I change the tempo according to what I do, like what juggling patterns I'm doing.
Are they linked? Kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
So
but this is what I do, and because I have to do it. This is like, I've tried to get my brain to do it out of sync, but I can't.
Okay.
And it's not something that I tell it's good. Absolutely not, because you have to find what works for you. But for me, I do it with the tempo. The juggling and the bouncing is always in tempo.
Wow.
Even with the Portuguese ball, it's always in the tempo. The tempo may not be like bounce, throw. It can be like bounce, throw, bounce, throw, or like, something a little bit off. They're still in the rhythm, but eventually they will always go back in the same rhythm. The rhythm continues, but it's not always so clear. But yeah, so I wouldn't call it a bad habit. It's just different technique. Yeah.
I would love to know what Jack and Christine think of this.
Oh yeah, I can go first. I don't really know whether or not I do have a rhythm or not, or if they're in sync or not. I've never actually paid attention. So the one video that essentially the only tutorial that's available on YouTube, I think is by Scott Sorensen. And he talks about breaking the rhythm with the shower pattern, and how you should maybe start with 3 clubs first, because you can see them better. The latter of which I agree with. However, the breaking the rhythm, I'm not sure I've ever had an issue, because I do think mine might actually, my 2 patterns, my bouncing and my juggling might actually be synced up, but I don't think I've ever experienced any problems with that. Like, But I'm not sure. Like maybe somebody can tell me whether or not that's even the case. I would like to know, but I've never actually. Like when I look at Gatto's video, it seems like they're synced up too, but maybe they aren't. I don't know. Are they? Do you know? Has anyone actually? I feel like they're synced up. Like when he does 6 clubs in sync, it looks to me like
it looks like they're synced when he does.
Yeah. Is anyone actually doing it not in sync? Like,
I think it might depend on the pattern massively. For example, Mo, did he say you're 7-5, 7-5? I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much easier when it's linked.
Yeah, I think when it's when maybe Gatto's doing 6 rins or 7 rins with the head bounce, I bet it's not in sync. And the reason why I don't think it is.
Do you think so though?
Yeah, I really do. Well, it might be over like a long period of time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but that's still in sync.
But I don't think he will think about it. And he might not even get to it, if that makes sense.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think about it either, but it might still be in sync.
Well,
you know what I'm doing? What I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's a funny business because, obviously, every throw, I don't know. I mean, every pattern isn't perfect. So the longer the period is before it reaches its next cycle,
it takes longer to sync up. Or until the first thing hits the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a.
I personally think with Gatto, it doesn't matter with him. Like when he did, it can be sync, out of sync. He can correct the pattern. He can just do it. I feel like that. But I don't know if he intended to do it in a rhythm or not. I don't know.
For me, it was so important to learn how to sync and unsync it. So, because then I could learn patterns faster because I was not used to a certain rhythm, but also for doing 360s or other stuff, then I could sync it beforehand. And then it was like the throws for the 360 were easier. So that was important for me. And I think even the thing that you wanted to point out is the problem of having it in sync with 3 balls and then having problems when moving on to 4.
Yes.
And that's why I think it was super important for me to learn 2 in one hand, and then 4, and then 3. That helped quite a lot. And it wasn't so hard to learn 4 when you're able to do 2 in one hand.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, but because for me, after being so used to this motion, when I suddenly do 4, then I start to bounce kind of in the rhythm here. But since suddenly I have to bounce maybe now, right after a throw, then suddenly I go up too early and I almost end up catching the ball instead of bouncing it with force. And this was very difficult for me to overcome. But all of you guys are able with 5, for example, to just you don't always bounce exactly at that throw, even though you guys say that it's synced to some degree in a way. You still have cracked a code with the rhythm that I still haven't.
It's like dwell time with like varied dwell time with regular juggling, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where you sort of have a little bit of some leeway on either side in terms of the moment when you're supposed to hit, if it came down perfectly, and then where you actually hit the ball with your head and push it.
Yeah.
I have a bad habit for you, Eivind. This is the question. Do you have any bad habits? I try not to do it, but bad habit is bouncing. You're doing like aerobics. So this is bad habit, but it's also poor technique. Like you see, especially with 3, you see this, and you have the body movement there. I mean, it looks funny, but when you want to do tricks, when you want to change the tempo a little bit, or you need to change the tempo a little bit of your juggling, you cannot do it because on your way down, your arm may have to go up. So you have to practice to get your technique good. So you can basically do it sort of like only the head bobbing. So eventually your technique gets better. You fill your ball a little bit with more air, so it bounces more easily.
Okay.
And you can avoid this, but it is more difficult. So it's sort of like a bad habit / poor technique. But this is something that I see a lot of people doing with tree. They're jumping like they're doing like jump ropes or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a bad habit. So you have to keep the jumping down.
That's interesting. I think I said at the very, very start, that's one reason why I think it's good to learn with a small bouncy ball, even though the small bouncy ball is harder. But if you can get the muscle memory of not having to do this, you won't have to break that habit, maybe. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like it's sort of like when you're holding a balance, first you're moving like this, and eventually you get more solid, and eventually it looks like you're just standing still with less corrections. I feel it's the same with the bouncing. So it just, when the technique improves, your movement gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I think to wrap this up, and after we can talk about other things that we haven't mentioned if you would want to. But the last thing I would like every one of you to do is to give a beginner to head bouncing at least one head bouncing tip that they could start doing to improve their head bounce. So Moritz, if you could only give one tip to a beginner in head bouncing, what would that be?
I would say always practice a little bit over your skill level and always push yourself as a general advice. Yeah, that helped me quite a lot.
Okay, so always push yourself.
Because for me, as soon as drills got easier, they didn't help me as much as they used to. And then I switched them up with harder drills or just harder tricks. And always push yourself.
Amazing. And Jack?
I was going to say a similar thing, which is push yourself sort of horizontally with your skills, when you're learning it. So when I was do the head bounce, I was working every day, not with 5 balls, but I'd try 3 clubs. I'd try 4 rings. I'd try 4 clubs. I'd try all of that with the balance too. Just instead of just focusing on, okay, I want to get 5 balls with the head bounce. It's let's just find all of the different props, the different numbers we can try to multitask with and expand your skills that way.
Okay. So learning things at a similar difficult level, but things that are different so that you get the fundamentals. Great tip. What about you, Chris?
Well, since we've already talked a lot about the later stages of how to put the things together, I don't think I can add much value there, but I want to say something on the initial stages of just learning to bounce the ball. I would say just make a long playlist of podcasts or get some audiobooks, and then make the next 3 weeks of your life the worst and the best 3 weeks of your life. Set an unrealistic goal, but keep telling yourself you're going to make it. Shoot for 600 bounces, and then just go crazy for 3 weeks. And even if you only get up to 250, I feel like you'll be able to bounce a ball in less than a month. If you just find some podcasts, take some time off work, save up some money, and then go crazy for 4 weeks. Because I feel like if you don't learn to bounce the ball and to get that solid, you don't have, all the other advice is not going to be valuable. So to get as many people as possible over that first, into that first stage of being able to bounce the ball is probably the most useful. And then if you ever want to learn to bounce and juggle, you can take a 5-year break and then come back to the juggling and the bouncing, putting it together. But you need to be able to bounce the ball. So go crazy for 4 weeks, make it the worst 4 weeks of your life, and then you never have to do it again.
Yeah. Nice.
Is my tip.
Amazing. So you always need to push the difficulty a bit, but at the same time you could also do this a little bit with going horizontally to kind of learn new moves at a similar difficult level. But if you're going to do all of this, you first need to be super solid at the head bounce. And the last tip, Lauri, what else do they need to do?
Well, if you're a super, super beginner, I would say all of these are good, but start slowly. If you have no experience on balancing and bouncing, you can have these neck muscles super tense and super worked up very quickly. So do short sessions, but often. Don't do 2 hours straight. Like do like 5 minutes, then do something else, then do 5 minutes, then do something else. And do every day, but like spread it if possible. This is the beginning. Like once you get, all right, neck feels good, everything feels good, then go for it.
I just forgot to mention that actually that helped me so much. Lewis and me did it at the beginning of the project, that we just, I think it was 3 sessions a day for 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. And that helps so much. Yes.
We did do that, yeah. Sorry, I've just thought of a question. I hope you don't mind me asking it. At what stages, how good were you at head bouncing? Like, how many head bounces were you doing without the juggle before or when you started adding the juggle? Does that make sense?
For me, I did like what Moritz is saying, like push yourself. Like once I could stand a little bit still, just try the juggling as well. Like do them both. Do the basic technique first as a warm up, and then just try the juggling. Try the juggling. Push yourself quickly forward. Yeah. But also always remember the basic. Remember the technical training, and then push yourself forward. That's what I did.
Cool.
I think this one is pretty different to Christian's technique, right?
Well, I could bounce the ball pretty easily. I was like, I could do as many bounces as I wanted to until my neck hurt before I started at the juggling. Yeah. I maybe was walking around, but I didn't really care that much. So the only mistake I made, and it was a huge mistake, it ruined my head bouncing career. Could have gone, a lot of places, but ended up going nowhere. There goes that career. Should have started to work on the 5 balls earlier. So like literally you do the 3, you do the 4, you do the 5 all at the same time. 3 attempts with 3 balls, 3 attempts with 4 balls, and then you do 3 attempts with 5 balls. Even if you can't even do the 3, you just try and do that every day. That's the only thing I regret not doing earlier, because I was waiting for those 3 to feel like super flawlessly easy, which never happened. Like still to this day, it doesn't feel as easy as I thought it was going to feel, as I thought it would have to feel to get the 5 solid. But I do have the 5. So I've done it for 1 or 2 minutes, So yeah. So don't wait for something that isn't going to happen.
Yeah. Nice.
Amazing. I think that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining and sharing your knowledge and expertise. It for sure has been really interesting for me as a non-bouncer or non-head bouncer to listen to you guys and learn from you. And maybe I'll try to learn it a little bit more myself in the future to get back at it and be able to control the rhythm in a good way.
Nice.
And thank you all guys at home for watching this video. And we'll see you most likely, or we're going to see you the 3rd week of January with a new episode. See you then.
If we want to do this, boom.
1, 2, 3, boom.